Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Our Wednesday staples coming at you today. JD PicKell 15 minutes from right now. Huge weekend in college football last weekend. Big one coming this weekend. We'll get his thoughts on LSU, A&M, and the rest of the slate in college football. It's a What If Wednesday. Already got plenty of those filing in on Twitter. It was a busy morning for my Twitter. A lot of that was uniform related, but we'll talk about a lot that went on my Twitter at 1:34 What If Wednesday. We'll hear from Garrett Nussmeier a little bit later with the sound he gave to the press yesterday. Got some matchups to watch for LSU and Texas A&M. And, of course, SEC football power rankings coming at you at the bottom of hour number 2. So lots and lots and lots to get to. We appreciate you locking us in here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We got to talk about Alvin Kamara, so let's get started.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, news breaking yesterday after further review, just after we went off the air, that the Saints have agreed to terms on a contract extension for running back Alvin Kamara. That new contract going to be 2 more years in length, $24.5 million. And AK will be in New Orleans for a couple of more seasons. And as many people have alluded to in this report, it's likely he retires a New Orleans Saint. AK right there at 30 years old. Looking at a 32-year-old running back, financially taken care of over the course of the last 8 years in New Orleans, and you figure this may be it for him. I'm not as concerned with when he's retiring, more so concerned with this news and what it means for him and what it means for the New Orleans Saints. And I have some layered thoughts on this decision. You kind of figured this was coming. This is not new news that Kamara wanted to get an extension done. It is not new news that he wanted to be in New Orleans and continue to play as a New Orleans Saint. And it's not new news that those two parties, Kamara and the Saints, have been back and forth, but hadn't quite gotten to the finish line, and they finally did yesterday. I want to start with this because I know this is the way that most people feel, and I don't think it is the incorrect place to start. This match, this draft pick, the production, the player, the locker room fit, everything Alvin Kamara has done since he was drafted by the New Orleans Saints in the 3rd round has been absolutely exemplary. He's been a phenomenal player, a Saints Hall of Famer, a record holder, most touchdowns in the history of the franchise. He's been a model citizen in the city. He's been a consistent through the turmoil of this Breeze Payton era turnover into the Alan Carr years. He's played hurt. He's played through a contract dispute. He's been a great player. And that piece is so admirable. In an era of transfer portal, this and that, the college game that we cover, and trade demands and holdouts that you see all over professional sports all the time, for Alvin Kamara to act as professionally as he has acted throughout this entire process has been incredible. He's gone above and beyond. He could have sat down with a broken rib, with no offensive line and no quarterback and no wide receivers early in this season. He did not. He put a flak jacket on, he took the football, and he ran into a brick wall. That is not nothing. It is incredible to watch and cover. And I think the Saints continuing to engage in these discussions has been admirable. And these two are obviously a match that they both want to continue, and that's a positive thing. There's another side to this, and this is a side that I have been talking about really since the summer. I'm not here to tell you that Alvin Kamara, as a football player, is definitely not worth $12.25 million a year over 2 years. I think you could easily make the case that he is. You look at the production that he has had as a football player. You look at what he did the first 2 weeks of this season when the Saints were healthy and playing great football. He was exceptionally productive. He was the cornerstone of the Saints offense. And as you look around the league at some of the backs in the league, yeah, there are guys making more than that. Christian McCaffrey's on $19 million a year. Jonathan Taylor makes $14 million a year. Saquon Barkley makes $12.5 million a year. And those guys are incredibly productive. McCaffrey when he's on the field, obviously. But this is the Saints we're talking about. This is not the 49ers. This is not the Eagles. This is not perennial contenders in the NFC. This is a roster that is old and expensive. And I don't believe sinking $12.25 million a year into running back is a good idea. That has nothing to do with Alvin Kamara. Nothing. It has everything to do with the state of the Saints roster. I've got a list here of the top running backs this year in terms of yardage. Derrick Henry makes $8 million. You're going to pay AK $12.25. Jordan Mason in San Francisco makes $985,000. We mentioned Saquon, $12.5. Josh Jacobs makes $12. Really productive in Green Bay. Chuba Hubbard makes $1 million. James Conner, $7 million, but that's half of AK almost. It's like 60%. Bijan Robinson, 5.5. J.K. Dobbins, 1.6. I'm not telling you in a vacuum that Alvin Kamara is not worth $12.25 million over 2 years when he's in his 30s. I don't know that. What I know is the Saints have 2 wide receivers worth a damn, and one of them had knee surgery. They got nothing behind that. I know the Saints' defensive front has been a sieve, and Cam Jordan's old, and Chase Young's on the last year of his 1-year deal. I know DeMario Davis is beyond his prime. I know Tyrann Mathieu is beyond his prime. I know Paulson Adebo just got carted off the field, and he's out of years on his contract. I know the Saints have holes everywhere. And sinking $12 million, which is top 4 in the NFL for running back, is not a good use of funds, in my opinion. There are too many issues on this roster to give $12 million a year to Alvin Kamara. And once again, because I feel like it is important to continue to beat this drum, that has nothing to do with Alvin Kamara. It has everything to do with the state of this roster. You need to get younger and cheaper. You just got older and you didn't get any cheaper because Alvin Kamara is still going to be making $12 million. And that's not the direction the Saints need to go. This is a franchise, for better or for worse, and at times it's been better and at times it's been worse, has always, always, always clung to trying to stay competitive and holding on for dear life. That's what their MO has been. And that's not always a bad thing. But to me, analyzing this situation, unbiased, because y'all know this, I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to whether or not the Saints win on Sundays. I just think this is for worse. I think this is... What good is Alvin Kamara if your offensive line can't block? What good is Alvin Kamara if you don't have a passing game because you don't have any wide receivers to throw to? What good is Alvin Kamara if your defense is giving up more yards than anyone in the sport? What good is Alvin Kamara at that point? Not great. He's been out there for 5 games. The Saints have lost all 5. It has nothing to do with him. I think it's reasonable to expect Alvin Kamara at the end of this 2-year extension, when he is 31 years old, to be a pretty damn good NFL football player. My concern is the Saints are going to miss out on 2 other potential good football players who might play defensive tackle and wide receiver because they're paying Alvin Kamara. That's my concern. There are running backs available every year, late in the draft, undrafted free agents. I mean, I can just bring this home to New Orleans. Y'all know the Pierre Thomas story, and I'm not trying to belittle Pierre Thomas and suggest you can just find Pierre Thomas wherever you want to look. That's not the case. But you're more likely to find Pierre Thomas than you are a franchise left tackle or right tackle, and you're holding on for dear life at right tackle. You're more likely to find Pierre Thomas late in the draft or in undrafted free agency than you are an elite pass rusher. You got to go find more secondary pieces. Maybe McKinstry and Lattimore and Alontae Taylor are it, but Tyrann Mathieu not going to last the end of this contract that Alvin Kamara has. So I just don't agree with the decision. I just don't agree. I think there are too many issues to sink that amount of money. You cannot pay a running back top $4 in the NFL with McCaffrey, Taylor, Barkley, and Jacobs when you have that many issues across your roster. I just don't believe in it. And I do not believe in a lifetime achievement award for a player. Thanks for the last 8 years. Here's $24 million over 2 because you were awesome 5 years ago. That's not how this works. You have to pay players for the production they give you on that deal. And I don't believe that Alvin Kamara will give you the production on this deal that merits that amount of money because the guys around him aren't good enough. That's just the way I feel about it. That's our opening drive presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge. We'll certainly get Luke Johnson's thoughts on it tomorrow. I welcome your thoughts on Twitter at HuntPalmer88 or, of course, in the Bayou Ford chat, whatever you may think. Again, I don't have anything against Alvin Kamara. I'm so impressed by his professionalism. And I've loved watching him play. It's a joy to watch play. The Saints aren't in position to pay him that money. That's just the way I see it. You're a Saints guy.
This feels like a move that Mickey Loomis is making to almost I'm not going to say that he's making it to appease the fans, but at the same time, when he understands the state of the franchise right now, he understands that I
don't know that he does, Beck. I really don't.
Okay. I feel like it's pretty clear that the fan base for the majority are all just fed up right now with this team. And if you want to have any sort of hope that the fan base will stick around for the next few years, you've got to have guys like Alvin Kamara on the team. I understand that it's not going to help you win 5 more games in a season, but you have to have something. There has to be something for the fans to latch on to. If you have nothing, if you don't have a player like Alvin Kamara on the team, then no one's going to show up.
No, I agree that this will make the fans happy, and I'm assuming when this gets posted on YouTube that I will get annihilated on
Maybe.
YouTube, and that's fine. I'm not here to try to make everybody happy all the time. I'm here to tell you what I think, and sometimes people like that, and sometimes they don't. But this will make the fans happy because they have great memories of Alvin Kamara and they want Alvin Kamara on their team. And their 12-year-old has an Alvin Kamara jersey, or they have an Alvin Kamara jersey, and they have a nostalgic feel to him. And again, it's reasonable to expect that Alvin Kamara is going to be a good football player in 2 seasons. It is reasonable to expect that. I just don't think the Saints can block for him. I don't think they can stop anybody on defense. I think I just don't think that that's a good use.
I agree with you.
Of money.
I agree with you.
And if you would have told me they signed him to a 2-year extension worth $12 million, so $6 a year, good. That's awesome. You can have Kendre Miller, who's on about $1.3 million, and Kamara on $6 million. You're paying your 2 running backs $7.5 million a year. That's the same rate that if I look at $7 million a year, that's what James Conner makes. One guy. Okay, that's fine. $12 million a year, I can't deal with that. So we'll see. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I do think that you're right that the fans will be happy about this move. All right, that's segment number 1 here. When we come back, JD PicKell of On 3 Sports going to join us, talk some college football. That is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about LeBear's Baton Rouge. Got to make it your game day headquarters this season. They got the biggest screens around. And now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. And tomorrow you can bet and dine and play blackjack, all that in person with me, because I'll be at LeBear's Baton Rouge inside ESPN Bet tomorrow for Thursday night football. Always want to remind you to sign up for the Cover 5 SEC contest on the Cover 5 app. You can compete against me and over 100 of our listeners each and every week picking 5 SEC games. Go to the app, enter the code LABRSEC24, and you can pick any SEC games that week. You can play against your friends, enter to win weekly and season-long prizes. If you're not a member, just get that Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge What If Wednesday coming your way in about 15 minutes. Get your what ifs in the Bayou Ford chat, also at Hunt Palmer 88 on Twitter. Got quite a few that have already rolled in. My SEC power rankings are an hour and 12 minutes away. I will tell you, I've got the power rankings right here. We'll get to them again at 2:30. But there are only three stationary squads this week. A lot of movement in the SEC, which has been absolute chaos for the last month. JD PicKell on 3 Sports, host of the Hard Count on YouTube each and every day. I ask you to subscribe up to that channel. Check out your college football content whenever or wherever you may be digesting that. He's always with us here on Wednesdays. JD, how we doing?
Oh, doing good, man. Doing good. It's a big weekend. I know it's kind of lacking the logo power of previous weekends, but still, I think it's going to kind of be a very week six-ish week 9, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure if a lot of folks in Baton Rouge can name another game that's going on this week besides LSU and Texas A&M. So I don't think there are not a lot of concerns here.
Yeah, as it should be, and the fact that it's in College Station too, I mean, probably increases the anxiety level a little bit, but I'm sure we'll talk about it. I'm excited for that one, man. It'll be fun.
We will talk about it. Let's go backwards first. Georgia kind of flexed the muscles there in Austin. What'd you see in that game?
I felt stupid. After that one because I picked Texas, and I'm like, okay, Texas, they are, the time is now. Quinn Ewers, the line of scrimmage, and Kirby was probably just laughing the whole week. He had all of his right where it was, and once again, Kirby Smartest snaps his fingers, and his team is. I know this is not actually within the metaphor, but to keep it that same vein of the Marvel world, he still has Avengers up front. Kirby Smart's team, it's ridiculous. Carson Beck threw 3 picks, they still won by 2 scores. It's frightening stuff. Yet again, a Kirby Smart team playing their best football at the right time.
I mean, yeah, they're good, and they showed it in the game. It's starting to look more and more like that was just a bad 30 minutes of football for Georgia in Tuscaloosa. Everything that went wrong, that could go wrong, did go wrong. So we'll see. Speaking of Tuscaloosa, Alabama goes to Knoxville and only scores 17 points. They lose a 24-17. A little wobbly in the Kalen DeBoer era. What's the deal?
Real wobbly, yeah, real wobbly. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you feel the same way, Hunt, but you just mentioned that Georgia game. I ask myself every weekend since then, did that really happen? Because that just feels like such a distant memory of fever dream of sorts. I cannot put a finger on what's going on with Bama. I think the concerning thing for me, I mean, the defense played great. Defense, you got 3 first-half turnovers. That should be exactly what the doctor ordered for Kalen DeBoer. And they're unable to capitalize on it. Right? They're unable to make good of those extra possessions. And this was the offense that earlier in the year we're hey, I don't know how to stop them. So it feels to me like the lack of answers is the most concerning part, paired along with the idea that I think they need Jalen Milroe's legs to get rolling for the whole mechanism to work. They seem very dependent on that. They're not very good at the cold opening as well. The split game or just the head stop vertical, it needs something to be working for that to work as well. So concern is definitely their label to put them down.
Got some cell phone issues there, JD, so we're going to have back disconnect and see if we can call you right back and see if we can reconnect, because there's a lot of games that I want to get to here. I want to get to Miami and Louisville. Obviously, I want to get to his thoughts on LSU and Texas A&M this coming weekend as well, and then maybe some big picture playoff discussion, especially in the Big Ten, with how he feels about Indiana, how he feels about Penn State, and how he feels about how that's going to shake out up there in the Big Ten. So lots and lots to get to. I'm very curious about his pick with LSU and Texas A&M. That game, I mean, I'm looking at the point spread. You're looking at 3.5, and it feels like it's basically a wash in terms of talent. It's just a home field advantage there for Texas A&M. So we'll see what JD's thoughts are on that. And of course, you can check out his YouTube channel, On 3's YouTube channel. The Hard Count is his show, and he'll have his picks for all these games coming up as the week does progress. So lots and lots to get to here in our discussion with JD. Again, if you're in the Bayou Ford chat right now and you want to throw us some what ifs, we're going to get to those coming up in 10 minutes when we finish up with JD. Beck, are we still working on things over there? It sounds like we're still working to patch up with JD. Meanwhile, I feel I mean, Oregon's in that Big Ten discussion that we'll have with JD. So sounds like we're linked back up. We'll see if this sounds a little bit better. But I want to talk about Miami, JD, because they keep winning by the skin of their teeth. They go to Louisville. They don't get any stops, but they score enough. They put up 52 points and win. What do you make of this Miami team that's now 7-0?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping I'm coming through for you here, okay? But what I was thinking about with Miami is I think they're going to lose a game somewhere, but I'm just not so sure that it matters. Like I think that once they get knocked down and they hit the canvas, they'll be one of those teams that jumps back up. And with who they have at quarterback, like with what Cam Ward's doing, man, he's just on another planet. And so it'll really be, I think, if they end up making the playoff, it'll be a matter of, well, is Cam Ward able to just do Cam Ward things, and is that kind of the end-all, be-all? Like there's a tremendous amount of variability with them, which makes you nervous. One thought I had about Miami is I'm not so sure we've seen their best football yet from this roster. Because I think the roster going into the year was like what you got fired up about was, okay, you got, some transfer on the defensive line, you got the running back in David Martinez, like you got all these pieces, but we haven't seen it really work together in a super complementary fashion just yet. So I think Miami still has a lot in front of them. And, the no stops is concerning. They'll lose somewhere, but I still think they'll be in the playoff, and I think they'll win the ACC.
Are Indiana and Illinois threats to make the playoff without getting to the Big Ten championship game?
I think Indiana is. Indiana absolutely is. I don't believe Illinois is. I think Illinois has too many holes. I think Indiana, honestly, like here's an interesting exercise. If they had a Michigan helmet, are they a top 10 team? Or are they a top 5 team in the country? If they had a different uniform or a different logo, how differently do we view Indiana? Because I mean, they haven't not just lost, like they haven't trailed, Hunt. And so I think just the over, like for me, I picked Nebraska this weekend going into that game, and I was shocked by just the overall, engine of that Indiana offense. I understand Curtis Work's got to get healthy, but I mean, if you're Indiana, honestly, like it might be a thing where they make the Big Ten title game, depending on what happens in that Ohio State Penn State game. So I'm curious to see, but I think Indiana absolutely has a chance to, whether they make the Big Ten title or not. I think they're absolutely a college football playoff contender, and I'd be surprised if we don't see them in that field as well.
Obviously, LSU fans are interested in that because you feel like you have one to play with, maybe to get to 10-2, but then you put yourself in this discussion with a lot of teams that are on your level. And I'm curious your thoughts on the Big 12. You got BYU and Iowa State, who are both 7-0. You got Kansas State at 6-1. I'm not asking you to tell me who's in and who's not, but do you believe the Big 12 is going to get 2 teams in, or do you think that's going to be a one-bid league?
I think it'll be a one-bid league.
Okay.
I think BYU will probably be that second team that we're talking about, with Iowa State being the champion. The thing that concerns me about BYU and just the Big 12 overall, like I've seen zero consistency. And it's one thing in the SEC with, the numbers next to these teams when they play them. Like Texas and Georgia, obviously, like if Georgia had lost that game, they got a loss to top 5 Bama, number 1 Texas. Okay, they're probably okay. But for BYU, like, they just went down to the wire with Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State now has 4 losses. Like I'm not convinced that BYU won't lose to someone they're not supposed to lose to, and I think overall that's going to end up kind of being the kiss of death for the Big 12 when it comes to trying to get more than just the champion in.
All right, let's move forward to this coming week. Notre Dame's got to go to East Rutherford, New Jersey, into MetLife Stadium and play a ranked, undefeated Navy team. The Irish are 13-point favorites. Do you think Navy's got a shot here?
Navy absolutely has a shot. I think Notre Dame wins. And the reason why, I think with and I know it's not the same option as we're accustomed to seeing over the course of the last however many years from Navy, but still, at its core, like option football, they're trying to they're trying to force you into a spot where you are disciplined enough, or undisciplined enough, rather, to where they can make plays. And I think Notre Dame, having the NIU loss already on the resume, is absolutely massive. And in a weird way, like the fact that they lost that mulligan so early in such an embarrassing way, I'm not so sure that they kind of kickstart the internal engine a little bit. Now, what gets really interesting to me, as much as it's going to benefit Notre Dame to have played Navy by the time they play Army in Yankee Stadium, when they play Army now, the Navy game will have some more data for Army with how to attack them with a similar option attack. So I think Notre Dame wins. I wouldn't be surprised if Navy covered, but I'll take Notre Dame to win, and I think they ultimately end up play that run really well.
If Notre Dame loses one of the Service Academy games and beats USC, say, and they're 10-2 with losses to a Service Academy and Northern Illinois, are they out?
I think they're out. I can't do it. I can't do it. And if it wasn't to NIU, if it was to USC, maybe USC looks okay at the end of the year. We can talk about it. But like the NIU loss and the Academy, I mean, even if Academy's a top 25 team, the no conference championship game, yet again, no data point for the last week of the college football season, I think bites them.
All right, let's talk LSU Texas A&M. Aggies 2.5-point choice there in Kyle Field, 6:30 kickoff. The only two unbeaten SEC teams that are left. How do you see it?
I think LSU wins the game. To just put it simply, to leave no suspense there, I think LSU wins the game, and a big reason why. I think this team, and maybe you have a better gauge for this than me, Hunt, but I feel like this team is slowly but surely starting to look more and more Brian Kelly-ish, as LSU teams tend to do this time, October moving to November. And it feels like there's a lot of confidence coming out of that Ole Miss game. Like, for them to go on the road in a letdown spot, just absolutely body bag Arkansas, that to me felt like, they're real deal, like turning the corner here. And I like A&M. I don't know if I trust Connor Wegman just yet against that LSU pass rush. So I think it'll be a good game, but I think LSU ends up leaving victorious from Kyle Field.
I missed one on my notes, so we'll circle back to it. Boise State Friday night at UNLV.
Ooh.
Maybe the last real hurdle for Boise State before they could be potentially a playoff team with the top-ranked group of 5. Is this a stumbling block here?
It's definitely a potential stumbling block. I just love that we got this thing through to Sicko's hour. I mean, like 10:30 Eastern or something, Friday night, 2 Mountain West teams in Vegas. I'm curious to see if we don't get like a rerun of this in the Mountain West when it comes to the conference title game. But yeah, I mean, between the academies and the Mountain West, like this is the show. And kind of a subplot here that I think a lot of folks will hit on is like the national stage, as funny as it is to say, for Ashton Genty, like potential Heisman moment for him if he's able to do what he's done all season long and average like 9 yards a carry or something ridiculous.
I agree with that. I think people will be watching this game, and not a lot of people watch Boise State on Saturdays, but you might watch them late night on Friday if they're on. So that's a reasonable point. If Genty's trying to create, he's got to separate from some of these guys that may have some moments down the stretch. This may be a spot for him. We'll certainly be watching. JD, we appreciate the time. We'll talk next week.
Thanks so much, man. Go Tigers.
JD PicKell on 3 Sports, host of The Hard Count, with us every single Wednesday at 1:15. We come back. It's What If Wednesday on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running that shop for 40 years. We are inching closer to November, and you feel like hopefully we're beyond hurricane season, but you never really know, and you always know there's another hurricane season coming. Now might be the time you make that call and say, hey, rode out one hurricane here this year. Wasn't a lot of fun. Lost power. The anxiety, not whether or not we're going to have power, whether we can work, or whether we need to evacuate. Just get the generator put in. Get the home standby generator from Boudreaux's Electrical Services put in. Every single Generac home standby generator you purchase from Boudreaux's Electrical will get you a 7 to 10 year warranty. They're going to use the highest quality in tubing and wiring in that installation. They're going to do most of it underground so that it looks presentable in front of your home. And what I never tell you about here with Boudreaux's Electrical is some VIP club you can pay more money to be a part of. When you're a Boudreaux's Electrical customer, you understand the level of customer service that you get, whether it's the maintenance, the installation, just the ease of contact. It's all fantastic because they're great people. Neil and Melissa have run it for 40 years, and Justin, their son, sales manager down there now. Give them a call at 985-397-1562, and that's 985-397-1562, or check out their Gonzales location, brand new, 225-300-9389. But I give you the easy way every single day. It's BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
I appreciate JD PicKell for hanging out with us there. A little bit of a cell phone snafu there at the beginning, but it straightened itself out. We had some good information there from JD. He thinks the Tigers take care of business in College Station this weekend. That would make me a happy guy. I would be happier than most if LSU could win in College Station. Not only would that be a win to take control of the SEC, it would be a defeat of Texas A&M. It would be entering a bye week. It would set up just an unbelievable environment inside at Tiger Stadium for Alabama in a couple of weeks. It would just be wonderful if that could happen. But we won't find out until Saturday. Let's play What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if Blake Baker leaves for a head coaching job this summer?
Look, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I've said this a lot. I feel like there's a really good chance that Corey Raymond and Bo Davis and Brad Davis are here for a long time. This is home for Corey Raymond and for Brad Davis. Bo Davis went to school here. I just don't know that those three guys they're so far along in their career without ever being a coordinator. It just doesn't feel like that's in their immediate future. And I don't think they're going to get pay raises or interest from other places that are going to pry them away. So I think you've got some pillars of that assistant coaching staff that are going to be there. But in real world, like, your coordinators are going to turn over every couple of years. Either they do a good enough job to move on, or they get fired. And that's just always the case. Brian Kelly's track record of hiring coaches, though, is phenomenal. I mean, his defensive coordinators at Notre Dame were Mike Elko, who LSU will see this weekend, Clark Lee, who's doing a great job with Vanderbilt this year. He's done a really good job there. Matt House was a whiff. There's no two ways about that, but he corrected it. He's had really good offensive coordinators. Obviously, Mike Denbrock did a good job for him at multiple stops. He was great here at LSU last year, and we think that Joe Sloan's doing a really good job. And I think that there's a chance that Blake Baker and Joe Sloan aren't here in a couple of years. But that's not has nothing to do with those two guys or who's going to hire them or where they're going to be. It just feels like that's the natural trajectory of things, and I trust Brian Kelly to make that next hire. But again, Blake Baker likes it here, and he makes a lot of money. And if he wants to take the head coaching job at Louisiana Tech, if that comes open, or what, like, that's going to be a pay cut for him pretty significantly, I think. So it's going to have to be an attractive offer, but inevitably something like that is going to happen. If he does move on, I can't give you the three names that I think Brian Kelly is going to point to, but I do think that he's aware that he may have two rising stars as his coordinators, three if you count Cortez Hankton, and he may have to make that move. So you make sure you've always got a list handy.
All right, next one here. What if LSU goes the rest of the way and wins every game, including the SEC championship?
Well, at that point, you're going to have beaten A&M on the road, Alabama at home, Florida on the road. You're going to go to Atlanta and beat Texas or Georgia. I guess A&M maybe if things go crazy. You're going to get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, and you're a national championship contender at that point. I don't think there's any two ways about that. I don't think that's out of the question. I said yesterday, I don't have the feeling that this team's going to go undefeated the rest of the way, but they may not have to get into the playoff. I'm just at a weird spot with this team where I'm very confident in their improvement. They just don't feel like one of the national championship teams yet to me. Maybe that changes on Saturday. Maybe they go on Saturday and they sack Connor Wigman 6 times and he throws 2 picks and they beat Texas A&M 34-13. And I may come on the postgame show and then here on Monday and go, okay, this is starting to get real. But I'm just giving you on the information I have right now. It just feels like they're good and they're getting better. They just don't feel dominant or elite to me yet. Hopefully that changes. But if they do all that in this what-if scenario, yeah, I'll sing a different tune, I promise you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just kind of trying to compare where teams were at this point in the season, I guess. Obviously, 2019, they were undefeated at this point, so there wasn't a question about it. But going into 2019, nobody thought that was going to be a national championship team. So you never know. I mean, you never know how the season turns out. I mean, LSU has clearly gotten better every single game.
Yes,
that's just obvious. And so if they keep getting better and they don't hit a ceiling, then they could do that. I mean, obviously, most people don't think that's going to happen, but they definitely could. So moving on here, what if Vandy beats Texas? What will Hunt do?
feel like I've been fair to Vandy. I moved him up to 8 last week.
You have. You weren't at the beginning, but you're starting to come around to it.
Apologies for not going nuts when they beat Virginia Tech. I just left them where they were. I didn't know what Virginia Tech was, and then they backed me up there by losing to Georgia State.
Tough environment again.
I'm not a Vandy hater.
You're a Missouri hater, that's for sure.
Well, right now I am because I think they stink.
All right, next one. What if, I think this one's from Twitter, what if when LSU wins Saturday, they'll be wearing so here's what happens. LSU is wearing the all whites as Hunt has begrudgingly admitted they will be wearing the all whites on Saturday. Mm-hmm. What if they wear that same combo the rest of the year just to spite you? And it says Hunt Palmario. I don't know if this was
that was from Stephen Miller on Twitter.
Okay.
That was from Stephen Miller on Twitter. Look, if they win every game the rest of the way wearing that combination, I'll be ecstatic that LSU is in the mix to win a national championship in football. I will still look at those uniforms on television and be a little bit sad they're not wearing the ones I like. But it's just, I can't help the way I feel about the uniforms. I feel like I get yelled at more for expressing that I like the classic uniforms than the other way around. Like, I'm not like chastising people that like them. I just don't like them. And then people yell at me about it. I think it looks stupid. That's just all I can say about it. But clearly the players like it. We're throwing tradition out the window, which some people like tradition. Some people don't care about tradition. Neither one of those is right or wrong. I'm not right for loving tradition. You're not right for hating tradition. Nobody's wrong either. It just is what it is. It's the way you feel. I was curious. I put out a poll today about the uniforms. A lot of people love them. That's fine. I just don't. I just differ in opinion. That's it.
All right. What if Hunt the Good Ag made an appearance on Friday?
That's not going to happen because that went so hillaciously wrong 2 years ago that it's retired forever.
Well, Hunt, the fact that you think that you doing that bid is the reason why LSU lost that game might be a problem.
Beck, you're talking to a guy who now drives to the stadium a different way than he did in the season opener because we lost that game.
Okay, yeah,
so
you have a problem.
We take River Road now. We don't touch Nicholson because we lost that game, and we're not going that way anymore. So we're 6-0 since. You just tell me how that works.
Okay. Next one. What if Hunt was the GM of the Saints? How would he fix them?
Oh, my God. Well, we're trading for draft picks, and we're going to get more draft picks. We're going to rip some of this old talent away. There's going to be dead money on the books, but we're going to free some money up, and we're going to take a lot of draft picks, and it's going to take 2 years, and that's just the way that it's going to be. But thankfully for Saints fans, I'm not the GM, and the Saints are going to try to win the rest of these games, and they're going to try to win next year. So that's the way they'll do it.
What if let's say the Saints end up with, let's say they go like 3-14 or 4-12, and they get the 5th pick in the draft. What if there's a quarterback? Is there a quarterback you would take?
I'd take. Yeah, I would, if I had a top 5 pick in the draft, I would absolutely take a quarterback.
But like, is there one you would take, or what if? I mean, the quarterback class this year hasn't really shaped up very well.
But I would try.
But maybe there's a franchise left tackle out there. The tackle spots are still not slow.
No, but I need a quarterback, and the best way to get good fast is to get a cheap quarterback that's good.
I mean, the Commanders have shown that.
Yeah, and so if I can make that work, and then I can fill in the blanks around it with expensive players that are proven NFL guys, that's what I would do. Now, you could draft Cam Ward or Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck or whoever, and they could just be absolutely atrocious. And you could draft Jake Locker and you stink. But I would absolutely try.
All right, last one here. What if we didn't lose the opener? Where would we stand? And I think this one's obvious, but the path to the playoff would be easier.
It would be easier if you were undefeated. Yeah.
They'd probably be number 1, I would think.
Maybe.
No,
Oregon would still be number 1 because they beat Ohio State. You'd be number 2, 3, or 4, and you would, I believe, have the ability to split the next 2 games. As long as you had one of those wins, then I think you could drop the game at Florida, and I still think you would have a chance. Because I don't think that the loss at Florida is going to be that much different than the loss to USC out in Vegas.
No,
I don't think you could lose both A&M and Bama and feel good about standing on that 10-2 with no wins.
No,
you can't have your bell cow being at Arkansas or Ole Miss at home. But I think you'd be in a really good spot. Unfortunately, they're not quite there, but they're still in a pretty good spot. As good as you could have anticipated after they left Vegas. So that is What If Wednesday on this Wednesday. When we come back, I will tell you about my experience at Pluckers tonight and the fact that I almost choked on my beverage.
Last night?
Yeah.
Okay, you said this night.
I meant last night.
I would have said I didn't know if you're going to Pluckers again tonight.
No, last night, and why I almost choked on my beverage. We'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I got asked yesterday, who's the guy you have that does the bathrooms? I said, David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. Gave the contact information out. Sounds like there's customer coming up because his mom, getting a little bit up in age, got to deal with some safety. Safety's important. One Bath and Closets can help you with safety in the bathroom because it can be a hazardous spot. Walk-in tubs, showers with a bench in them, non-slip floors, handrails, all those things could be the difference in a fall and no fall. And One Bath and Closets can help you out with all of that. David Duvall and his team do it all the time. Financing options are available, 18 months at 0% if you qualify. Start that process with a free consultation today at OneBathAndClosets.com. That's OneBathAndClosets.com.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
All right, we're closing up hour number 1 here. SEC football power rankings coming your way in 40 minutes. As I mentioned earlier in the hour, only 3 teams stayed stagnant this week. A lot of shaking up to be done in the SEC power rankings, so we'll get to those. Beck, I see you got your Pelicans shirt on today. You fired up for the Pellies tonight?
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm really the most fired up about the fact that we can watch the Pelicans.
That is a plus.
On TV without having to pay for it.
One of the great moves in franchise history.
It really
is
is.
Actually having the team televised so that the fans of the team could watch the team.
Not drafting Chris Paul, not drafting Zion Williamson, not...
Zion's
all those
tummy
things.
Still hurt, or is he good?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's still a game time decision, so we'll see.
To hear that.
Yeah, unfortunate.
A little bit of a tummy ache there. Well, I'll tell you this. My excitement level for the NBA took a bit of a hit last night when I was at Pluckers.
Okay.
We're there enjoying some sports trivia.
As you do.
As one would. A lot of cheese fries being had, some wings being put down, cold beers available. The TVs were all on. There was Louisiana Tech UTEP on one.
Ooh, wow. That was probably a barn burner, wasn't it?
No, it was not. Nobody could score. I have no idea who won the game, but it was really poorly played.
I think Tech did end up beating the Miners there.
Yeah, well, those teams had 3 wins entering last night. I know that, and it was not well played. But then I turned on, one of the TVs turned on, and it was the Timberwolves and the Lakers.
Okay.
And the first image that I saw was LeBron James, who plays for the Lakers.
He does.
He's their starting power forward.
Yes.
And Bronny James, who also plays for the Lakers. He's their starting bench warmer. And they were there, and I expected them to be there because they both are paid to play by the Lakers. I did not know that Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. would be there.
Yes.
And that made me choke on my beverage.
Wow.
These 2 guys, Ken Griffey Sr., part of one of the great teams in MLB history, a guy who played 20 years in the majors and hit .297, phenomenal Major League Baseball player, and his son, who was the first pick in the draft and made the big leagues by 20 and went to the Hall of Fame, hitting 600 homers. Those 2 guys who accomplished the feat of playing with one another at the professional level were there to somehow insinuate that LeBron James and Bronny James had reached that company, which is ludicrous.
No, Hunt. I mean, they have reached that level. Obviously, Bronny James got drafted by the Lakers in the 2nd round. Hunt. He is deserving of.
Did you see him go in the game?
No,
I did. He looked like. It was very evident who was the guy that wasn't supposed to be out there. He's short. He didn't know where to be. He was running all over the place. He didn't do anything. One time he and LeBron got too close to each other when the shot clock was going down and they were doing this handoff thing and LeBron had to fling up a 3. I cannot believe the Los Angeles Lakers turned an NBA basketball game into a charity case. I can't believe it.
No, you actually should believe it.
They checked in the first half. This is LeBron's fault. I don't think I'm curious, like, he can't possibly play anymore. There are always 3 DNPs on every NBA box score, and clearly he is the worst player in the league.
No, I from what I have read, or at least from what I'm hearing or seeing, is that he will be going to the G League team. I'm not sure it's going to happen this week or what.
It's a charity case. That's just unbelievable.
It was a publicity stunt.
I just don't. That's so pitiful.
It is, yeah.
LeBron, like, it doesn't matter because the Lakers aren't going to be that good.
They actually won, by the way, too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, they did win.
I saw it for 6 minutes.
Anthony Davis had a great game.
Great. He's actually an NBA player.
He's actually good.
He should be on the floor. It's just like, when it's so obvious, it just doesn't feel right to me. And, like, you can't put yourself in this company just because you rigged I don't know. I shouldn't care.
Yeah,
but,
probably
like,
not that much.
And it's not going to matter anymore. But when I saw the Griffies there, I was like, oh, so we're all supposed to be in on this thing, that, like, this is, like, you two guys did something truly, nearly unbelievable, and this is supposed to be on that level.
Yeah, it's equal.
The Griffies hit back-to-back homers as father and son in the major leagues, and I got Bronny out here. It's just sad. I could not, as Randall puts it, that kid took a roster spot from a real professional basketball player. It's not Bronny's fault at all.
No, it's not. That's the thing.
100% LeBron's fault. He just doesn't care.
Yeah, I really actually
look at me. Yeah. Look what I can do. Look how I can. It's incredible.
I kind of feel sorry for Bronny in a way.
I do too. He should be starting for a mid-tier college program right now, contributing instead of being paraded out like a show pony. Whack. That's it for hour number 1 here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're going to start talking some LSU and Texas A&M when we come back from Sports Center. Don't go anywhere. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. When you think Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury because it is a luxury line of vehicles. But you shouldn't necessarily immediately go from luxury to, oh, I can't afford that. Give them a shot. You'd be surprised. The Genesis model, it's luxury vehicles at a reasonable price. You've probably never been by Genesis Baton Rouge because it's pretty new. It's only a year and a half old. But if you're in the market for a new car in Baton Rouge, oftentimes you find yourself on Airline Highway. Just make the one more stop to Genesis of Baton Rouge. They've got phenomenal sedans. They've got SUVs, and they're incredible to look at. They're very, very safe, and they're affordable. It's a luxury experience when you drive a Genesis. How about this? 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, plus 3 years of complimentary maintenance, valet complimentary maintenance. So you drive to work, I need an oil change, need some wipers, need a cabin air filter. Okay, call up Genesis Baton Rouge. They send somebody to you, and they take care of it right there. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge.